Am I going to regret making this video when the Red Wings inevitably go on a massive losing streak in the coming weeks after I post this? Probably. Is that going to stop me from making this video? It sure isn't, because us Red Wings fans have not had a lot to cheer about over the last 7 years. I've been making NHL videos on YouTube for a long time. I created this channel on September 21st of 2015, probably started uploading consistent NHL videos around 2017-ish. So basically for the entire tenure of me making NHL videos on YouTube, there has been next to nothing to talk about in a positive light when it comes to the Detroit Red Wings. I guess I shouldn't say that, because throughout this rebuild there has been some great draft picks made, some trades that have worked out really well for the Wings. I'm more so just referring to the on-ice product itself. However, this season, the Red Wings have been one of the most impressive teams in the league through the first week or so you can bet I'm going to make a video going over the Red Wings' hot start to the season, because I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know when I'm going to get an opportunity to make another video like this in the future. Now, before we dive into the stats and go over the Red Wings' hot start to the season, I do want to mention last year, because this was obviously a team that occupied a playoff spot just a couple of weeks out from the trade deadline. So you might be thinking, how can you say this is a team that hasn't had a lot to cheer about in terms of the on-ice product when they were in that position just last season? Even though the Red Wings managed to stay in the hunt as long as they did last season, as a fan, it definitely wasn't a team that I felt very confident in, because the numbers, the underlying stats, they just didn't back up the results the Red Wings were getting. And it was obvious that at some point, even if you weren't even looking at the numbers and were just watching the games, that was a team that got outplayed on most nights. That was a team that was winning games at probably an unsustainable pace for how they were actually performing. And for me, that is the biggest difference from last year's version of the Red Wings to this year. Detroit has won 3 of their first 4 games of the season, and they're not fluking their way to these wins either. So let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers. The Red Wings are 3-1-0 through their first 4 games of the season, good for 6 points and second in the Atlantic Division. They are tied in points with Ottawa, who are also 3-1, but Ottawa has the better goal differential. The Red Wings are scoring at a clip of 4.75 goals per game, which is tied for first place in the league with Carolina and Ottawa. They are also in the top half of the league in terms of goals against per game at just 2.75. The special teams have been phenomenal. Power play especially, currently the best power play in the league at 46.2%. The penalty kill also in the top half of the league. The Red Wings are rocking an expected goals percentage at 5-on-5 of 54.14, which is the 9th best currently in the NHL, and they are winning 57.4% of their faceoffs up until this point, which is the 3rd highest rating in the NHL. The numbers that stick out the most there are obviously the 4.75 goals per game and the 46.2 power play percentage. This is a Red Wings team that has struggled mightily offensively over the last couple of seasons. Defensively at 5-on-5, they've been able to stay afloat, they've been serviceable, but their whole game plan really over the last couple of years, especially in the latter years of Jeff Blashill's run as Red Wings head coach, was to play this boring, trapped style of hockey, all defense, no offense, try to keep the game as close as possible, and then maybe squeak out a win here and there. The offense was really non-existent, and for me, that was the biggest thing that needed to be addressed for the Red Wings heading into this season, and thanks to off-season additions like Alex DeBrincat and many others, so far so good. Now that brings me to the next thing that I want to take a look at, and that is how some of the off-season additions made by Steve Yzerman have stepped up and made a massive impact on this team and have played a huge part in why the Red Wings have gotten off to such a hot start. Of course, the big one is Alex DeBrincat, who through 4 games has 5 goals and 8 points. He currently leads the entire NHL in points, which is pretty crazy. Now, yes, he is shooting an unsustainably high 38.5%, which is going to come down. He's not going to be a 2 points per game player all season, but I think at the very least, it's safe to say Alex DeBrincat has proven that he can get back to being that player who scored at a 40-goal clip on multiple occasions in Chicago, and last season with the Ottawa Senators was just a down year. And for a Red Wings team that hasn't had a 40-goal scorer since Marian Hossa scored 40 with the team back in 2009, DeBrincat regaining that 40-goal form from the Blackhawks would go a long way. JT Compher was another one of the Red Wings' big offseason additions, and one that admittedly I was very skeptical about when the contract was signed. I thought it was a pretty steep price to pay for a guy whose career high in points prior to last season was just 33. 3. But through the first 4 games, I've been pleasantly surprised with JT Compher. He's got 4 points in 4 games. He's winning 50% of his faceoffs and has added a really nice layer of secondary scoring behind that Red Wings top line. He's been playing a responsible 200-foot game. He's played a big part in the Red Wings penalty kill, which has looked good thus far. I've been very happy with what I'm seeing from JT Compher. Again, similar to what I said with DeBrincat, Compher's a guy that's probably not going to score at a point per game pace all season, but if he can just have another year where he puts up 50 plus points like he did last season with the Avalanche and continues to have a solid overall impact on the game like he has so far, I think the Red Wings will definitely take that. Of the 3 defensemen brought in by the Red Wings during the offseason, those being Jeff Petrie, Justin Hall, and Shane Gostisbehere, Shane Gostisbehere has been far and away the best of the 3. Is Shane Gostisbehere a defensive stalwart? By no means, but his offensive instincts and abilities have been a welcome addition to this Red Wings team that was so starved for offense heading into this season. Gostisbehere is point per game through 4 games with a goal and 3 assists. He's got a +3 rating. He's averaging close to 19 minutes of time on ice per game. I would definitely say the area of the game where Shane Gostisbehere has had the biggest impact on has been the power play. He's been on the Red Wings top unit, a unit that consists of 2 defensemen, himself and Mo Seider, and that top power play unit has looked fantastic so far. Like we looked at earlier in the video, they currently have the best power play percentage in the league, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with Shane Gostisbehere, who is just such a smart power play quarterback. And I'll be honest, Gostisbehere hasn't been that bad defensively either. Where he struggles in that aspect of the game is definitely when he's hemmed in his own zone and the forwards on the opposing team are forechecking hard, but he's done a very good job early on in the season of jumping up into the play and breaking up plays in the neutral zone before forwards get the opportunity to hem him in his own zone and to forecheck him heavily. Can't say enough good things about Shane Gostisbehere. I know DeBrincat is going to get a lot of the attention because he's leading the league in points currently, but I think you can make a case that Shane Gostisbehere has been the Red Wings' unsung hero so far this season. Daniel Sprong is another guy who's looked solid. He's got a couple of goals in 4 games, playing around 13 minutes on average per game, which is up from his ice time last season in Seattle, but still in a role where he can thrive in, feasting on weaker matchups on the bottom 2 lines of other teams. And James Reimer, who was brought in by the Red Wings to compete with Alex Lyon for that backup position. Reimer ended up winning the backup role over Lyon throughout training camp and preseason, and in the 1 game James Reimer has started, he shut out the Columbus Blue Jackets and has a 1.52 goals saved above expected, so far so good from Reimer. I think it's going to be very important for the Red Wings to get consistent backup goaltending this season, whether it's James Reimer, whether it's Alex Lyon, because last season I think it was very clear that Ville Husso, especially towards the end of the year, was overworked, overplayed, and that's something you definitely don't want to happen again. Now, aside from the new Red Wings, guys that were brought in the offseason, I do want to show some love to the returning players as well who have been great. Dylan Larkin, this may be the best version of Dylan Larkin I've seen in his entire career up until this point. He's got 6 points through 4 games, and playing with Alex DeBrincat has just unlocked, I feel like, another level in Dylan Larkin's game. DeBrincat is easily the most dynamic player Dylan Larkin has ever been on a line with, and it's just opened up the game so much for him. Andrew Kopp is another guy who had a pretty rough first season with the Red Wings last year, coming off of core surgery. He's looked great so far this season. He had a couple of goals last night against the Penguins. It's been really nice to see Andrew Kopp bounce back and have such a positive impact on the Red Wings, because if he had another season like the one that he just had last year, this is a contract that would quickly be looked at as one of the worst on the team. The next thing that I want to talk about is this hot start by the Red Wings sustainable? Well, let's take a look at their upcoming schedule, their next 5 games. They're off till Saturday. They have a back-to-back on the 21st and 22nd against Ottawa and Calgary. That game on Saturday in Ottawa is going to be a massive test, as the Senators have looked fantastic so far through their first 4 games of the season. And if you remember, it was the Ottawa Senators last season who basically ended the Red Wings' hopes at making the playoffs, as it was about a week or so, I believe, before the trade deadline. Detroit went into Ottawa, played a back-to-back, and got absolutely throttled in both games, which then led to them moving the likes of Hronek and Bertuzzi at the deadline. So following that back-to-back against Ottawa and Calgary, the Red Wings will play Seattle and Winnipeg at home on the 24th and 26th, and then head to Boston for a road game at the TD Garden on the 28th, which is another game that should be a really big test. Boston has looked good early on in the season, and it's looking like the Atlantic Division is going to be an absolute dogfight this season, so those interdivision matchups are going to be that much more important. I'm really excited to see how the Red Wings perform over these next 5 games, because although it's only been 4 games so far, they have looked very good, but once we get up towards, 10, 15 games into the season, that's when you can start to have the conversation, is this team legit? Is this actually who they are? Because right now, we can still just chalk this up to a hot start, but it is a hot start that has been a welcome sight for Red Wings fans. So that is pretty much going to wrap up today's video. That is everything that I wanted to go over in regards to the Red Wings' first week or so of the season. As as always, I want to know your guys' thoughts, so let me know what you're thinking down below in the comments in regards to the Red Wings or anything we talked about in this video, especially if you're a Red Wings fan. Let me know how you're feeling down below. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this on other teams, maybe leave a suggestion on a team you'd like me to cover down below in the comments, and leave a like on this video. That is the best way to let me know that you enjoyed. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year long, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.